I would presume that most of us think from time to time, what if I could turn back time? Funny enough, it is the title of a very popular song. I'll say it right from the get-go, if I could, I would not. It is all fine as a fantasy for a movie theme or for some philosophical exercise, but reality is quite obvious, and I know that someone will tell me that video games are not the same as life, but hear me out. What if you get the strongest version of turning back time, the one in which you keep all the knowledge from the events that were rewinded back? You learned from your mistakes and now you have almost unbeatable advantage to take the right path and to avoid dire consequences. You do it over and over so your life seems perfect, but is it really? You just rob yourself from the one thing that really confirms that you exist, living with consequences of the transpired events. Now you can pick and choose what to keep and what to avoid. The only thing that reminds me of this is save scamming, where a player will load the save file after any, even the slightest failure. So the playthrough seems perfect on paper, but in reality, it was just a bad movie full of reshoots. But what any of this has to do with the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, you might ask? And that is a fair question. For once, I have installed, played and uninstalled game on 3 separate occasions, without ever finishing it, not even close. And this review is a story of why it happened, so make yourself comfortable, because we are getting started. And where it comes to beginnings, the story in both Kingdom Come Deliverance games starts strong. The first one that we talk about today is very heavy in emotional sense in the first several hours. It does a very good job of showing us Henry's life, so we know what he lost in a very short time frame. We do not miss the characters that we barely knew, but rather the life that Henry could have. Fortunately, he is not left alone, and fast enough he got his dose of adventure, and we as well as players who embody him in this cruel world. The main story is the tale of loss, revenge and rebuilding lives after the tragedy. In this sense it is the first part of 2, as the second game continues right where the first one ends. However, the side activities and people who ask for Henry's help are totally different, as the regions where action takes place are removed from each other. Of course, there are some similarities, for example, heavy drinking parties which you will not find in other games. I thought the drinking bender with Cumans in KCD2 was crazy, but bowling with Godwin in KCD1 is just next level. If the story was the only thing in this game, I would not uninstall it, but played it to the very end. Unfortunately, the other elements are not so good and fun. So let me tell you the sad story of my demise in KCD1. Starting with gameplay. Movement on foot is not bad, but the fact that you need to hold sprint key is quite a pain in the ass, and unnecessary inconvenience. The same is true for horse riding. You need to hold sprint button to gallop fast, and your horse is going through bushes not as easily as in second game. Besides, someone had a stupid idea to make the use key display horse info instead of mounting. The number of times I hit the wrong one is staggering. Both melee and range combat are somewhat worse versions of the one known from the second game. They are alright, but certainly one of the weakest aspects of the whole experience. And okay, I guess I got what I wanted in that this time around Henry can talk to most ordinary NPCs as well as to all the important ones. The result is that most of them repeat the same lines, which is what you would expect pretty much. Remember folks, be careful what you wish for. What really killed the game for me, however, are the systems that administrate the whole experience. Repairing your gear is as expensive as buying a new one. You can forget about repairing heavily damaged pieces yourself, like it took place in KCD2. You are pretty much screwed in that aspect. Moreover, leveling brings you more tears than joy, as most perks have much worse curse than kiss effect. Meaning, if you pick one, you're gonna downgrade Henry instead of improving his capabilities. Those two aspects made me uninstall the game after around 40 hours. I had enough and I was fed up with that bullcrap. Who in their right mind thought it would be a good idea to destroy joy from progression in the freaking RPG game? What the hell is going on? Am I going mad? Most likely. On the more cheerful side. Wait, scratch that. This is actually really sad that such a wonderful locations went to waste because of the systems that bring torture instead of joy and feeling of accomplishment. Ruins of Skalitz in the heavy rain must be one of the heaviest sights in video gaming history. It is emotional and brutal. Also, I really liked Ratai. It is the best town combined with castles and villages in the two games by a mile. It reminded me of the two first Gothic games, to be honest. Maybe because of imperfect graphics, maybe because of colors. Who knows? It just spoke to me and it felt real. Overall, KCD1 has the second best looking countryside in the gaming history, with KCD2 taking the first place as of October of 2025. But there is a catch. I think towns, villages and hamlets look even better than in KCD2. While individual models are of worse quality, the feeling of the whole is better in the first game. I know it is a different region, but for the love of Christ, it was over 600 years ago, so we don't know exactly how many buildings and in which order they were placed in every village, so I put the downgrade on developers. I was way more impressed with human settlements in the first game. Kuttenberg be gone, wretches. Overall, there is less quality of life in almost all aspects of the gameplay. I guess Warhorse Studios learned a lot and made the second game way more pleasant to play. And praise be Jesus Christ, because otherwise, instead of saying that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was one of the best games of all times, I would uninstall it in righteous wrath, like I have done with KCD1. Technically I could summarize game here and now, but I would not be myself if I didn't talk just a little bit about, well, technical aspects of this creation. And quite frankly, it looks very decent for a 2018 title. Character models are worse than in second game, as it is to be expected for a 7 years of time passage, but the fields and forests still look very good. I don't know, but it feels quite different. Some kind of another charm to it. I cannot put my finger on it, but I was hypnotized and mesmerized by many fragments of environment, like River Pass in Ledeczko at 6 in the morning. It was just beautiful in some magical way. I know I tend to romanticize many places, both in real and fictional worlds, but I would not give it away as it is a part of me, the part that I hold dear. Anyways, implementation of anti-aliasing is better than in second game, which is funny thing to say, but on the other hand we got no upscaling techniques to choose from, so there's that. Voxel ambient occlusion makes objects voxelated in some circumstances, which is very often noticeable. I didn't install any mods to fix this, as I could see on forums that mods are often problematic in KCD1. It was quite distracting in dialogue scenes, as oftentimes the moving voxels on the face of character that was talking turned my focus away from what they were saying. That's very bad. Additionally, there is some kind of sharpen filter enabled by default, but no option to change it in settings menu. So if you want to adjust it, you gonna need to use console or edit game files, which is risky in such a buggy game. And I'm sad to report that the same as in second KCD2, there is a nasty limit of 30 FPS put on in-game engine cutscenes. This time around, instead of few minutes, it took me like 2 hours in order to unlock FPS and not to break the game. Bloody hell, the things I will do for smooth cutscenes. Funny thing, the highest settings are still too much even for strong modern PCs. The main bottleneck in the game is engine itself, as it cannot utilize the full power of modern hardware. There would need to be changes to the game engine itself, and that is not going to happen. The best experience I had was the high settings with draw distances and textures maxed out. Frame generation is working badly in this game because of how the rendering pipeline is laid, so the game actually looks and plays more fluid without it. Okay, we got visuals and performance discussed, now with the audio. The sound in the title screen is unclean. This is not what you want to greet a new player with. Fortunately, while playing the game, there is no such problem, so that's good. Music is very much clean and great sounding. I loved it, even if it lacks some epic aspects of the second game. I could tell that composers are great at their craft. Same goes for all the musicians responsible for the execution of these beautiful musical pieces. Voice actors for the core characters are done very good job, but some performances for supporting roles not so much. However, it was odd to hear Godwin with different voice. There was just something uncanny about him. Oh well, at least he knows how to have fun and get through the tough next day. But let's not get too positive now, shall we? Game, even so many years after release, has some visible bugs and junk. Now I fear that some of those glitches in second game will never be resolved. And let me do some side rant. Even if I got KCD1 for free from Epic Store, I have a gripe that HD sounds and textures DLCs are not automatically installed like on Steam. I played around 20 hours before I realized that. I had to manually find them and download in the store. That was kind of a downer, and yes, HD textures help the game to look significantly better. So, coming to an unavoidable conclusion about Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. The game systems that are way worse than in second game weared me out, so even if I very much wanted to experience the whole story, I just could not handle the tiredness and frustration that gave me the game systems. First, most perks are not worth taking because they do more harm than good to Henry. This is not a progression but rather a regression system, and I cannot handle unused perk points and the stars that reminded me of them. Secondly, the cost of repairing armor is just too much and we cannot use kits for very damaged ones like in second game, so I got sick and tired of constantly checking out armor pieces on dead enemies that I could replace the ones I was wearing. And lastly, the combat that is so far removed from pleasant one from KCD2 that it finally made me realize I don't wanna play the first title anymore. And yes, I know that I repeated myself, but I wanted to drive it home, so anyone listening to this would not mistaken what I'm really saying here. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 is the prime example of how the wasted potential looks in the video game world. And yes, many fans of the first game will strongly disagree with me, and boy, I envy them, believe me, as I wanted to like or even love this game, but I just couldn't. As my recommendation I will say this: play the second KCD and forget about the first one. With that controversial statement, I will leave you until we meet again in another great late review.